Stop listening to generic motivational advice. If you still think self-control is a personality trait some people are born with and others simply lack, this episode will fundamentally rewire how you think about discipline forever.
The neuroscience is unambiguous. Self-control isn't a fixed trait. It's a trainable skill. And science has identified 7 specific, research-backed strategies that work 40 to 300% better than traditional willpower.
Procrastination destroying your productivity? Phone addiction consuming your evenings? Late-night snacking sabotaging your health? These aren't character flaws. They're behavioral problems with behavioral solutions.
Research teams at Stanford, UCLA, Oxford, and University College London have cracked the code. And we're going to share it with you in exactly 28 minutes. Vocabulary, case studies, idioms, everything.
The secret they discovered changes everything. Environment beats willpower, habits beat motivation, and pre-commitments make failure literally impossible.
Stay with us. You're about to gain skills that compound interest style for decades. Welcome to the English Coffee Break. I'm Christopher, and we're diving deep into behavioral psychology with scientific precision.
I'm Aria. Today's episode, Self-Control is a Skill, Not a Personality Trait, is packed with advanced vocabulary, peer-reviewed research studies, and professional English idioms you'll use naturally in conversations and presentations starting tomorrow.
We're not vague. Each of our 7 strategies includes the specific studies that prove it works, the exact implementation steps you can execute this week, and professional expressions you'll encounter in business settings globally.
This material elevates your IELTS speaking band, sharpens your business presentation skills, and, as a bonus, actually increases your real-world self-control by measurable percentages.
These aren't abstract theories. Navy SEALs use these strategies before combat operations. Fortune 500 CEOs use them for high-stakes decision-making. Olympic athletes use them for training discipline.
Grab your notebook. Let's build skills that make you unstoppable.
Strategy number 1. Destroying the willpower myth. The outdated belief that self-control is a limited battery that runs out.
Christopher, I've heard about this concept before, but the research completely reframes how I think about discipline. Walk us through the science step by step.
Here's the bombshell that changed psychology forever, the famous ego depletion theory, which dominated willpower research for 2 decades, claiming willpower is a limited mental resource that runs out, has been completely debunked by more than 20 rigorous replication studies. The original research by Roy Baumeister, while influential, couldn't hold up under scrutiny. Self-control doesn't deplete. It strengthens with practice, exactly like building muscle through consistent weight training. More fascinating. UCLA researchers discovered that people who explicitly believed in unlimited willpower showed 30% better self-control outcomes over 2 weeks compared to those who believed willpower was finite. This belief alone changed neurological responses.
Christopher, this is mind-blowing. So if someone's been told their entire life they have no willpower, that belief itself becomes self-fulfilling? They're essentially handicapping themselves before they even start?
Precisely. Carol Dweck's growth mindset framework applies directly here. When people view self-control as a muscle, something improvable through practice, they persist through difficulty. When they view it as a fixed trait they either have or don't, they quit at the first sign of struggle. What's revolutionary is this isn't motivational psychology, it's neurological fact. Brain imaging shows that individuals with a growth mindset activate different neural pathways when facing temptation. They engage the prefrontal cortex, the conscious reasoning center, rather than just feeling defeated.
So the real barrier isn't lack of willpower, it's the limiting belief about willpower itself. That's almost liberating, isn't it? If everyone could internalize this one idea, the productivity implications are staggering.
Exactly. And once you recognize you can build self-control, you stop waiting for motivation and start engineering discipline. You move from passive hoping to active building.
Brilliant analysis, Christopher. For our international listeners, the precise technical term professionals use worldwide is ego depletion. This is crucial vocabulary for business English and IELTS. What exactly does this mean?
Perfect question. Ego depletion refers to the now-disproven theory that self-control draws from a limited mental reservoir, causing subsequent decision-making tasks to suffer from decision fatigue and diminished willpower. Modern research shows this effect is largely psychological belief rather than neurological fact. This definition is how neuroscientists, psychologists, and business consultants discuss this concept in peer-reviewed journals and boardrooms.
Thank you for that crystalline definition. I can already hear myself using this term naturally in strategy discussions and client conversations.
Now for English mastery, and this is how native speakers express this idea naturally. The perfect idiom for this strategy is, bite the bullet.
I love this choice. Many of our listeners probably encounter this expression but don't fully grasp its nuance. Paint us a vivid, concrete scenario showing this idiom in action.
Picture this. It's 6:30 p.m., you're exhausted after 8 hours at the office, Netflix is literally calling your name with 3 new shows, but you committed to hitting the gym today. You bite the bullet, lace up your shoes, and head out. That first action, walking to the car, creates momentum that pure willpower alone never could. By the second set at the gym, you're grateful you didn't negotiate with yourself.
Perfect example. Someone hearing that could immediately use it in their next conversation. That's native-level English.
This strategy alone, genuinely, could transform someone's productivity overnight if implemented with consistency.
And what's brilliant is that each strategy builds on the previous ones. Self-control isn't a single skill, it's a system of skills that compound together. Ready for our next strategy?
Absolutely. Next strategy reveals something truly surprising. Strategy number 2. Habit loops beat motivation, automating behaviors through cue routine reward cycles that bypass willpower entirely.
Christopher, I've heard about this concept before, but the research completely reframes how I think about discipline. Walk us through the science step by step.
Motivation is unreliable, seductive on Monday, completely absent by Wednesday. Habits, however, work 24/7 without requiring any emotional energy whatsoever. University College London's landmark study tracked 96 participants as they deliberately formed new habits. The average habit formation took 66 days, ranging from 18 to 254 days depending on habit complexity, but here's the golden insight: consistency beats speed every single time. The participants who stuck with a habit for 45 days straight developed substantially stronger automatic responses than those who practiced sporadically over 120 days. Professional athletes don't feel motivated before grueling practice sessions. Their neural pathways have been rewired so completely that their brains execute automatically, almost robotically, while their conscious mind can focus elsewhere.
That's fascinating because motivation is finite, but habit formation is almost infinite in its scalability. Once you automate a behavior, it costs almost zero mental energy, right?
Absolutely correct. Charles Duhigg's research revealed something crucial: your brain physically rewires during habit formation. The basal ganglia, the primitive, automatic part of your brain, takes over from the prefrontal cortex. Think of it like this: when you're learning to drive stick shift, the prefrontal cortex is completely engaged, conscious, effortful. But experienced drivers? Their basal ganglia handles 90% automatically. That neurological shift is what we call automaticity.
So the question becomes, how do we strategically build these automatic pathways toward the behaviors we want instead of toward Netflix binges and phone scrolling?
Exactly. And this leads directly to our next strategy about how to design those habit loops with surgical precision. The cue routine reward sequence isn't random, it's engineerable.
Brilliant analysis, Christopher. For our international listeners, the precise technical term professionals use worldwide is habit loop. This is crucial vocabulary for business English and IELTS. What exactly does this mean?
Perfect question. Habit loop refers to Charles Duhigg's foundational framework consisting of 3 elements: cue, environmental trigger, routine, the behavior itself, and reward, the reinforcement, that together transform conscious, effortful behavior into automatic, unconscious action. Understanding this loop is the master key to behavior change. This definition is how neuroscientists, psychologists, and business consultants discuss this concept in peer-reviewed journals and boardrooms.
Thank you for that crystalline definition. I can already hear myself using this term naturally in strategy discussions and client conversations.
Now for English mastery, and this is how native speakers express this idea naturally. The perfect idiom for this strategy is, get the ball rolling.
I love this choice. Many of our listeners probably encounter this expression but don't fully grasp its nuance. Paint us a vivid, concrete scenario showing this idiom in action.
You've been procrastinating on that critical project report for 3 weeks. The deadline is tomorrow. Finally, at 8 p.m., you open the document and commit to just 5 minutes. But something magical happens. Once you've written the first paragraph, suddenly the inertia breaks. You've gotten the ball rolling and complete the entire 12-page report in 2 hours. Starting was 90% of the battle, continuing felt almost inevitable once momentum existed.
Perfect example. Someone hearing that could immediately use it in their next conversation. That's native-level English.
This strategy alone, genuinely, could transform someone's productivity overnight if implemented with consistency.
And what's brilliant is that each strategy builds on the previous ones. Self-control isn't a single skill, it's a system of skills that compound together. Ready for our next strategy?
Absolutely. Next strategy reveals something truly surprising. Strategy number 3. Implementation intentions, if-then plans that predecide responses to specific temptation scenarios.
Christopher, I've heard about this concept before, but the research completely reframes how I think about discipline. Walk us through the science step by step.
Generic goal setting fails catastrophically. Saying, "I'll eat better," is worthless because when 3 p.m. strikes and donuts appear in the office break room, your conscious intention crumbles under real-time temptation pressure. Implementation intentions, specific if-then contracts with yourself, actually work. The refined approach, if it's 3 p.m. and donuts appear, then I will immediately eat my pre-prepared apple instead. Peter Gallwitzer's extraordinary meta-analysis examined 94 rigorous studies spanning multiple decades and found that implementation intentions increased success rates by 200 to 300% compared to standard goal setting. This isn't motivational thinking, this is behavioral precommitment. Your future self doesn't negotiate when temptation hits because you've already decided the response, and your neural pathways have practiced that decision.
The brilliance here is that you're not relying on willpower in the moment. You've outsourced the decision to your past self. You're essentially binding your future behavior when you're calm and rational.
You've nailed it. The psychological term is mental implementation. When you repeatedly visualize and pre-plan the if-then sequence, your brain creates neural pathways that fire automatically when the cue appears. So when you see donuts, your brain doesn't pause and deliberate, it's already decided to eat the apple. The conscious effort is zero.
This seems almost too simple to work at scale. How does this apply beyond diet? Could someone use this for tackling email addiction, social media, exercise avoidance?
Universally applicable. Navy SEALs use implementation intentions for combat decision-making. CEOs use them for schedule management. Students use them for study consistency. The format is always, if, specific trigger, then, specific predetermined response. Trigger plus response, decided in advance, executed automatically.
Brilliant analysis, Christopher. For our international listeners, the precise technical term professionals use worldwide is implementation intention. This is crucial vocabulary for business English and IELTS. What exactly does this mean?
Perfect question. Implementation intention refers to specific, concrete behavioral plans formatted as, if situation X arises, then I will perform response Y, that effectively automate decision-making and behavior execution, eliminating the need for willpower in the moment of temptation. This definition is how neuroscientists, psychologists, and business consultants discuss this concept in peer-reviewed journals and boardrooms.
Thank you for that crystalline definition. I can already hear myself using this term naturally in strategy discussions and client conversations.
Now for English mastery, and this is how native speakers express this idea naturally. The perfect idiom for this strategy is, have your cake and eat it too.
I love this choice. Many of our listeners probably encounter this expression but don't fully grasp its nuance. Paint us a vivid, concrete scenario showing this idiom in action.
Everyone wants six-pack abs while eating pizza nightly, they want to have their cake and eat it too. Real self-control isn't about being superhuman, it's about accepting trade-offs between present pleasure and future gains. The person with genuine six-pack abs made thousands of micro-choices favoring future health. They're not resisting pizza with superhuman willpower, they're executing pre-planned decisions automatically.
Perfect example. Someone hearing that could immediately use it in their next conversation. That's native-level English.
This strategy alone, genuinely, could transform someone's productivity overnight if implemented with consistency.
And what's brilliant is that each strategy builds on the previous ones. Self-control isn't a single skill, it's a system of skills that compound together. Ready for our next strategy?
Absolutely. Next strategy reveals something truly surprising. Strategy number 4. Environment design mastery, making good choices frictionless and bad choices difficult through spatial engineering.
Christopher, I've heard about this concept before, but the research completely reframes how I think about discipline. Walk us through the science step by step.
Stanford's legendary behavior scientist B.J. Fogg proved through decades of research that environment trumps willpower approximately 80% of the time. Your physical and digital environment shapes behavior far more powerfully than conscious intention. Hide the junk food in back cabinets, prep your gym clothes the night before, laid out visibly on your bed, delete Instagram from your phone's home screen but keep the gym app prominently featured. Tech visionary Naval Ravikant, who studied optimization obsessively, crystallizes this wisdom: design your environment to support your goals, not fight them. This isn't mysterious. It's environmental psychology. If chocolate is visible on your desk, your brain processes it subconsciously for hours, depleting willpower through constant microtemptations. If it's hidden, the problem vanishes entirely.
So you're essentially removing the self-control problem rather than trying to muscle through it with discipline? That seems almost like cheating compared to the traditional just say no approach.
It's not cheating, it's intelligent design. The neuroscience shows that willpower is a limited resource, despite the ego depletion debate. Why waste it on problems you can eliminate environmentally? Think about airline safety. They don't rely on willpower and passenger discipline, they engineer fail-safes. Pressure-sealed doors, pre-flight checklists, automated systems. Environment design is scientifically superior.
Can you give us concrete examples? Like, what would someone actually do on Monday morning if they're serious about environmental redesign?
Monday morning, specific actions. 1. Remove all junk food and replace it with pre-cut vegetables and fruit in eye-level fridge space. 2. Sign up for gym classes that cost money and have cancellation fees. Financial consequences boost commitment 65%. 3. Use apps like Freedom to block social media during work hours. 4. Change your phone's default browser homepage to your learning goal, not Gmail. 5. Literally rearrange your desk so distracting items are physically inaccessible. Small friction additions to bad choices, small friction reductions for good choices.
Brilliant analysis, Christopher. For our international listeners, the precise technical term professionals use worldwide is friction. This is crucial vocabulary for business English and IELTS. What exactly does this mean?
Perfect question. Friction refers to intentional barriers that increase the effort and friction required for undesirable actions, like storing cookies in high, difficult-to-access cabinets or requiring two-step verification for social media app access, thereby reducing their likelihood of impulsive execution. This definition is how neuroscientists, psychologists, and business consultants discuss this concept in peer-reviewed journals and boardrooms.
Thank you for that crystalline definition. I can already hear myself using this term naturally in strategy discussions and client conversations.
Now for English mastery, and this is how native speakers express this idea naturally. The perfect idiom for this strategy is, out of sight, out of mind.
I love this choice. Many of our listeners probably encounter this expression but don't fully grasp its nuance. Paint us a vivid, concrete scenario showing this idiom in action.
Struggling with smartphone addiction and endless social media scrolling? Instead of white-knuckling through willpower, implement environmental design. Charge your phone across the room during family dinner. Out of sight, out of mind, when the phone isn't visible, your brain doesn't unconsciously crave it. The temptation largely vanishes. You're not fighting your nature, you're redesigning the environment your nature operates within.
Perfect example. Someone hearing that could immediately use it in their next conversation. That's native level English.
This strategy alone, genuinely, could transform someone's productivity overnight if implemented with consistency.
And what's brilliant is that each strategy builds on the previous ones. Self-control isn't a single skill, it's a system of skills that compound together. Ready for our next strategy?
Absolutely. Next strategy reveals something truly surprising. Strategy number 5. The 10-minute momentum rule, committing to the smallest possible action to defeat procrastination, starting resistance.
Christopher, I've heard about this concept before, but the research completely reframes how I think about discipline. Walk us through the science step by step.
Your brain resists task initiation with disproportionate force compared to task continuation. This is psychologically and neurologically documented. The activation energy required to start exceeds the energy to continue by a factor of 3 to 5. University College London found that 91% of people who started tasks for only 10 minutes continued past that initial period, often completing substantially more. The psychological mechanism: once you've initiated, the mental resistance drops dramatically because your brain has already engaged the relevant neural circuits. Authors use this ruthlessly for writing: just write one paragraph, then quit if you want. They almost never quit. Students use the 10-minute rule for studying physics or organic chemistry, which feel overwhelming before starting but become manageable once engaged. Entrepreneurs use it for cold outreach, knowing the first 5 calls are terrifying, but call number 8 feels routine.
This is brilliant because it psychologically reframes the commitment. You're not committing to write a book or study for 3 hours. You're committing to something laughably small that your brain can't rationalize refusing.
Exactly. Mel Robbins' 5-second rule builds on this principle directly. When procrastination urges hit and you feel hesitation, you count down: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and physically force yourself to begin. Why? Because hesitation lasts longer than 5 seconds. You interrupt overthinking through immediate action. The prefrontal cortex hasn't finished its reasons to delay conversation before you've already started.
How does this scale for bigger projects? Does the 10-minute rule still work if someone's facing a 6-month software development project or a year-long thesis?
Perfectly scalable. You break the massive goal into 10-minute segments. Monday, 10 minutes designing the system architecture. Tuesday, 10 minutes reviewing existing code libraries. Wednesday, 10 minutes writing the project plan. 90 days later, you've accumulated hundreds of 10-minute blocks that compound into complete projects. The key is consistency over perfection.
Brilliant analysis, Christopher. For our international listeners, the precise technical term professionals use worldwide is activation energy. This is crucial vocabulary for business English and IELTS. What exactly does this mean?
Perfect question. Activation energy refers to the psychological and neurological threshold of mental effort needed to overcome inertia and begin executing a task, which drops dramatically, sometimes by 70–80%, once initial engagement is achieved, making continuation substantially easier than initiation. This definition is how neuroscientists, psychologists, and business consultants discuss this concept in peer-reviewed journals and boardrooms.
Thank you for that crystalline definition. I can already hear myself using this term naturally in strategy discussions and client conversations.
Now for English mastery, and this is how native speakers express this idea naturally. The perfect idiom for this strategy is just do it.
I love this choice. Many of our listeners probably encounter this expression but don't fully grasp its nuance. Paint us a vivid, concrete scenario showing this idiom in action.
You're overthinking whether to send that email to a potential business partner. Your perfectionist brain is rewriting it for the 8th time, finding flaws in every sentence. Finally, you silence the inner critic and hit send. That moment, overriding hesitation through action, is just do it. The email was good enough. Action interrupted your overthinking completely.
Perfect example. Someone hearing that could immediately use it in their next conversation. That's native level English.
This strategy alone, genuinely, could transform someone's productivity overnight if implemented with consistency.
And what's brilliant is that each strategy builds on the previous ones. Self-control isn't a single skill, it's a system of skills that compound together. Ready for our next strategy?
Absolutely. Next strategy reveals something truly surprising. Strategy number 6. Delayed gratification science, proven techniques to prefer future large rewards over immediate small pleasures.
Christopher, I've heard about this concept before, but the research completely reframes how I think about discipline. Walk us through the science step by step.
Walter Mischel's groundbreaking marshmallow experiment, which followed children for decades, revealed something profound about delayed gratification. Children offered 2 marshmallows for waiting 15 minutes versus 1 immediately showed measurably better life outcomes across multiple domains, higher test scores, better relationships, healthier weight, reduced substance abuse, tracked decades into adulthood. The neuroscience underlying this: your brain contains competing systems. The limbic system craves immediate dopamine hits. The prefrontal cortex understands future consequences. Self-control is essentially training your prefrontal cortex to override the limbic system's urgency signals. Adults applying this principle think, 1 hour of focused studying yields months of career advantage, salary increases, and fulfillment. The 5-second countdown physically interrupts impulsive urges before they can fully dominate conscious choice.
But Christopher, aren't some people naturally wired for delayed gratification while others struggle? Is that genetic, or learned through childhood experiences?
Excellent question touching on nature versus nurture. Twin studies suggest approximately 40% is inherited genetic predisposition toward impulsivity or conscientiousness. But, and this is crucial, the remaining 60% is absolutely trainable through deliberate practice and environmental design. People who grew up with delayed gratification modeling, parents who work toward long-term goals visibly, typically develop stronger delayed gratification capacities. But neuroscience shows adult brains remain plastic. You can literally rebuild these neural pathways through repeated practice, visualization, and strategic environmental design.
What are the practical techniques someone could implement today? Just willpower and hoping? Or are there specific mental moves?
3 specific techniques beyond basic willpower. First, vivid mental imagery. Close your eyes and imagine the detailed benefits of the delayed reward. See yourself with the degree, the fitness level, the career success. Make it multisensory. Second, temporal discounting reversal. Instead of thinking the reward is far away, think the time will pass anyway. I'll either be in that future with the reward or without it. The time passes identically, only your choice varies. Third, precommitment devices like public announcements or financial stakes that make immediate gratification more costly than delayed gratification.
Brilliant analysis, Christopher. For our international listeners, the precise technical term professionals use worldwide is hyperbolic discounting. This is crucial vocabulary for business English and IELTS. What exactly does this mean?
Perfect question. Hyperbolic discounting refers to our consistent cognitive bias toward exponentially overvaluing immediate rewards compared to delayed ones, a neurological tendency countered by visualization of future benefits, making distant rewards psychologically closer and therefore more compelling. This definition is how neuroscientists, psychologists, and business consultants discuss this concept in peer-reviewed journals and boardrooms.
Thank you for that crystalline definition. I can already hear myself using this term naturally in strategy discussions and client conversations.
Now for English mastery, and this is how native speakers express this idea naturally. The perfect idiom for this strategy is, bird in the hand.
I love this choice. Many of our listeners probably encounter this expression but don't fully grasp its nuance. Paint us a vivid, concrete scenario showing this idiom in action.
Doom scrolling social media gives instant dopamine. That's a bird in the hand, immediately satisfying but ultimately empty. Building genuine skills, relationships, and health promises future success that's currently invisible. Self-control consistently chooses the unseen reward over the visible temptation, betting that future satisfaction exceeds present pleasure.
Perfect example. Someone hearing that could immediately use it in their next conversation. That's native-level English.
This strategy alone, genuinely, could transform someone's productivity overnight if implemented with consistency.
And what's brilliant is that each strategy builds on the previous ones. Self-control isn't a single skill, it's a system of skills that compound together. Ready for our next strategy?
Absolutely. Next strategy reveals something truly surprising. Strategy number 7. Pre-commitment strategies, binding future behavior through contracts, accountability, and costly consequences.
Christopher, I've heard about this concept before, but the research completely reframes how I think about discipline. Walk us through the science step by step.
In Homer's Odyssey, Ulysses faced an impossible temptation. The siren's song would drive him insane if he heard it. His solution? He bound himself to the ship's mast before he could hear them, physically preventing his future self from making a terrible choice. Modern pre-commitment strategies apply identical wisdom, deliberately create contracts and consequences that bind your future behavior. Platforms like StickK.com let you bet your money on personal goals. You set a deadline and goal, specify an amount, and if you fail, the money goes to a charity you despise or a rival political candidate. Beeminder charges you actual money for missed deadlines, treating personal commitments with the same seriousness as loan payments. Social psychology research demonstrates that public commitments boost success rates by 65% compared to private goals. Your reputation literally increases stakes. The power is removing your future self's option to quit.
This feels somewhat extreme, doesn't it? Using financial penalties to force compliance? How is that different from just developing better discipline naturally?
It's not extreme, it's rational psychology. Research on loss aversion shows humans are approximately twice as motivated to avoid losses as to achieve equivalent gains. If you lose $50, the pain is roughly double the happiness from gaining $50. This bias is so powerful that pre-commitment mechanisms leveraging loss aversion often work better than pure willpower. You're not forcing compliance, you're strategically aligning your incentive structure with your goals. A person who commits publicly and financially to exercise tends to develop the habit faster and more sustainably than someone relying purely on intrinsic motivation.
Can pre-commitment backfire? Like, what if someone who's already struggling with self-doubt adds financial penalties and falls further behind?
Excellent caution. Pre-commitment works best when calibrated appropriately. Start small, $2 stakes for achievable goals. As confidence builds, increase stakes. The purpose isn't punishment, it's leveraging psychology to engineer success. And crucially, structure commitments around specific, measurable behaviors rather than outcomes. Exercise 5 times weekly is precommittable. Lose 10 pounds involves external factors you can't fully control.
Brilliant analysis, Christopher. For our international listeners, the precise technical term professionals use worldwide is pre-commitment. This is crucial vocabulary for business English and IELTS. What exactly does this mean?
Perfect question. Pre-commitment refers to strategic advance arrangements and binding contracts that create real, tangible costs for future failure, leveraging psychological loss aversion and public accountability to ensure follow-through on commitments and goals. This definition is how neuroscientists, psychologists, and business consultants discuss this concept in peer-reviewed journals and boardrooms.
Thank you for that crystalline definition. I can already hear myself using this term naturally in strategy discussions and client conversations.
Now for English mastery, and this is how native speakers express this idea naturally. The perfect idiom for this strategy is put your money where your mouth is.
I love this choice. Many of our listeners probably encounter this expression but don't fully grasp its nuance. Paint us a vivid, concrete scenario showing this idiom in action.
You claim you'll wake consistently at 5 a.m. for productivity, but you've broken that promise 17 times to yourself. Real accountability means putting stakes on it. Put your money where your mouth is. If I hit snooze tomorrow, $50 goes to a cause I despise. Suddenly, the commitment becomes real, and your brain takes it seriously rather than treating it as negotiable.
Perfect example. Someone hearing that could immediately use it in their next conversation. That's native-level English.
This strategy alone, genuinely, could transform someone's productivity overnight if implemented with consistency.
And what's brilliant is that each strategy builds on the previous ones. Self-control isn't a single skill, it's a system of skills that compound together. Ready for our next strategy?
Absolutely. Next strategy reveals something truly surprising.
Christopher, we've covered 7 research-backed strategies. 7 weapons against procrastination, temptation, and behavioral drift.
7 methods that actually work. Not generic motivation. Not, just try harder. Actual neuroscience-backed behavioral engineering.
Pick one strategy starting today. Environment design works fastest for most people. The 10-minute rule works for procrastinators. Precommitment works for big goals. Different people, different strategies, all evidence-based.
Implement one fully for 21 days. Most habits consolidate within 3 weeks. By the time you reach day 22, it'll feel automatic, requiring minimal willpower.
Download our complete vocabulary resource from the description, all 7 technical terms, their definitions, example sentences, and full citations to the original research studies. Your IELTS band score will rise.
Challenge: which strategy resonates most strongly with your biggest struggle? Comment below with your answer. We read every response, feature outstanding stories, and build future episodes around your questions.
Remember, 28 minutes of focused learning compounds into decades of improved discipline, productivity, and personal achievement. That's the real power of self-control.
I'm Christopher, and the breakthrough you need isn't willpower, it's knowledge.
I'm Aria. Transform your English, transform your discipline, transform your life.
See you next coffee break.